Still good morning at this point. I'll give you the update on who's practicing, or really who's not practicing. So we've got these players will not practice: Dorian Williams, Eddie Olufasho. How about just Eddie? Nick Merrow, Balin Spector. Those are linebackers that will not practice. Running backs that will not practice: Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, Reggie Gilliam, and then the following will be limited: Mike Edwards, Spencer Brown, and Matt Milano. And then Christian Benford is excused to handle a family matter. So with that, I'll turn it over to you for your questions.
That seems like a pretty lengthy list for a mandatory minicamp. Is it injury-related, rest-related? Especially the first groups you mentioned there.
Yeah, no, unfortunately injury-related. We've kind of got hit with the injury bug here, and, that affects availability, which affects some of the development, building trust, especially if you're a new player, right? And so, so we're just dealing with it. We've had to cut back on some of the third group reps over the last week or so, and we may have to do the same today. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Sean, what about the significance of Matt Milano being back on the field and practicing back on the field? Whatever he can do, the significance of that?
Yeah, it's big. Credit to Matt and what he's been able to do with our training staff and the work he's put in. He's so focused. He was focused before this. I feel like he's even more focused, if that's even possible now. And wanting to get back out there for himself, but also for his teammates.
What about the timetable on Matt? Do you expect him to ease him in when he gets to training camp? When you get the pads and things of that nature, as you've done with other players.
Right. So right now, at least the vision from Nate is just that. It's he'll do some individual today, see how it goes, one day at a time, and then hopefully tomorrow, if overnight things stay managed, and then we'll continue to build. He'll continue to build through the break that we're going to go on, and then hopefully in training camp he's at a spot where when we open up, he's available. It's just a matter of putting it one day at a time and trying to put practices back to back. Don't know yet on that, John, and we'll just have to see.
Sean, is everyone here?
Everyone is here, except for Christian.
Yeah. And that's an excused absence.
Correct. Yeah.
What can you say in the brief time you've had him of Claypool, what he looks like? Obviously, he's had some struggles the last couple of years. What have you seen early on here?
Yeah, good addition. He's a veteran player that's started before and has experience in games and also on special teams. So I think he's come in and done all that we could have asked to this point. He's been a good teammate, worked hard, been focused, made plays out there, and I think that'll continue as we move forward, and the evaluation overall will continue, but we're happy to have him.
Hey, Sean, a lot of new coaches, not a lot of new players. What have you liked about sort of the synergy of the last couple months?
Yeah, I've loved it. Everyone's focused, it seems, and although it is spring, right, and guys have things going on sometimes outside of football this time of year, so we respect that. But when they've been here, they've been focused and working well together, and really more of an unselfish approach, I would say, and that's been good to see.
To Ryan's point, you got a lot of new guys on the defensive staff, either new to the team or new to their job. How much more coaching of the coaches are you doing this time of year, and how does it change maybe your approach to this region of the season?
Well, I think you're always coaching your coaches. I think that's really where it starts, right, in terms of trying to get everybody on the same page, on the same sheet of music, so that when they go and teach or they go and install a scheme or a play, it's how the coordinators want it. And then from me to the coordinators, we're on the same page from a leadership group, if you will, of how we want to say even schedule practice today or tomorrow, and then as we look ahead to training camp, what we want that to look like, and so on and so forth.
With all the turnover this offseason, do you find, not that you abandoned this entirely, do you find yourself going back to 2018 and 2019 and even 2020 in having players introduce themselves and speak up in front of the team more and leaning on that method because it worked in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think, John, we always do that. It's just a matter of how much is necessary. I think it's always necessary. To what extent is probably year to year, to your point. But just overall, this time of year, it gets tougher to do some of that in training camp because of the pace, I would say. So right now, if we're going to do it, we're going to major in it right now, and that's one of the things we have been doing.
Sean, can you talk about how McGovern and Josh are getting on there? I mean, this is Josh's first new center for quite a while, and obviously Connor hasn't done that really much in the NFL. I know it's tough to evaluate line play, but can you maybe give us some thought on how that's gone, you think?
Right. It is shorts and T-shirts and helmets, so it's not really football yet. So having said that, though, it's been interesting to watch that relationship between Josh and Connor, then also Connor at the kind of the leadership position of our offensive line. He's the one that sets the table to call the huddle to really start the next play. I think he's done a nice job, Connor has to this point. He's got very good energy on a daily basis, which is important for us, and seems very aligned with Coach Cromer and what they want to get done up front.
Sean, understanding the shorts and T-shirts element of it, but what sort of growth development have you seen from Josh with his new wide receivers and weapons in the offense from OTAs as we hit this week?
Just taking it one day at a time, really. Because of the new faces, then you have your other group of veterans who have been here and kind of know a little bit of what we do, but more so how we do it. And that onboarding process has been fun to watch with, whether it's Keon or a veteran new player to us. I think it's gone well. The work that they've been doing on their own, the time on task of the detail of the routes. Josh has done a great job of pulling some of those guys aside when time allows to get some extra work there.
Sean, from your perspective, what went into the decision to sign Gable Steveson, someone who doesn't have football experience? Obviously, you know a lot about the wrestling background and that kind of thing, so what went into that?
I think a couple of things, and one of which is I'm a big believer in wrestlers and what skills you develop in wrestling and how it can transfer to being a really good football player, especially among the offensive line, defensive line position groups. Having not played football ever, not even in high school, that's a little bit different. That's a little bit unique. And so there's more work to be done, right, in terms of starting from scratch, from zero, and then trying to build each day. And he's worked extremely hard with our defensive line coaches and Coach Babich as well. And so it's about just daily improvement. And, again, this is new. I tried to equate it to some of the coaches who have not wrestled. I said it's like trying to put on in wrestling the ankle band when you just go to the scorer's table and you're not even wrestling yet. They haven't even blown the whistle. So it's a new world a little bit for him.
What did he show you, that despite not having, like you said, any football experience, that it was worth, having someone you have to kind of teach, the basics and start from scratch?
I think more than anything, the quickness, the burst, the power, all that you can tell in a small workout, those are the things that you try and identify from a defensive line standpoint in this case. And, we were going through it, and some of it was making sense during the workout, and some wasn't. So I tried to, I just tried to put things in wrestling terms a little bit of some of the overlapping movements, if you will. And so maybe that helped a little bit, maybe it didn't. But, again, he's been working hard.
Coach, what has to happen this week for you to leave the off-season training portion, this portion of OTA's mandatory minicamp, and even back into April, for you to feel, I feel good about what happened during the last 2 months here as we approach training camp in 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think let's just start with the health of our football team. It was mentioned that we have some injuries, and some of those are going to happen. I think the biggest thing is, can we get ourselves through the break? Can we get ourselves through the next couple of days, number one, and then into the break period, and those guys can spend time with our trainers and our training staff and get to training camp where they're available. I think that's important. Staying healthy over the break for the guys that are healthy right now is also important. And so I think you start there, and then you get into making sure that schematically, this is a time of year for us at least where we try and develop our menu a little bit, try things, throw some things out, add some things. It's really the time of year to try some of that. And then my ask of the coordinators is that when we break or before we break, that they've got a pretty good menu built that they believe in and matches what we know at this point at least to be the strengths of our players. And then we get to training camp and we rep, so that we're efficient and effective with what we're trying to do.
Sean, with you've lost Leonard Floyd, and obviously Von is on the back end of his career. Do you need Greg Rousseau specifically? I know other guys, but Greg Rousseau, do you need him specifically to step up this year and kind of take the lead as your most dominant pass rusher, maybe?
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, when you talk about Greg and AJ, both, they've put good things out there. They've flashed really high-level moments. Now it's about being full-time starters, right, and taking that next step to continue to take their game to another level, and they're aware of that. And both of those guys work extremely hard, and that's the opportunity that's really, quite frankly, in front of both of them.
How have you noticed Taylor Rapp take charge of the safeties room?
Last week in particular, it's really stood out. Last year, when T-Rap got here, new system, different environment in the room, and he did a great job of understanding his role and excelling at his role. And now, new role this year, and I hate to say role because roles aren't really defined until everyone makes the team, but at this point, Taylor's really stepped into that role and I would say asserted himself from a leadership standpoint a little bit and a communicator standpoint, which is huge in that back end where next to him, who's it going to be, right? So Mike Edwards is brought in. Mike's on the injury report as well and hasn't been really practicing, and then the other pieces that are competing back there. So it's interesting to see, but necessary from a communication standpoint.
Staying in that safety room with DeMar Hamlin, he really came on during OTAs, made a couple plays. Pads aren't on, but what have you seen from him that's allowed him to stand out the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think the last couple of weeks he's been playing more consistent, playing at a high level, very, very focused, and getting himself into a really good spot. I think with not only knowing the defense, but just getting back to playing detail-oriented and fast.
Sean, you've referenced the break coming up. There's been a lot of talk about the possibility of changing the way the offseason goes. Is it needed? Or what's your opinion on the way the current setup is? And is this break, like for you and the coaches and everybody, sort of needed to ramp up when you get to training camp?
Well, I like the current structure. Maybe I'm a creature of habit, 20-plus years around it. But I would say I think you're always open to change if change works for everyone. So I trust the people that are going to make those decisions more than anything. And I think it'd be hard, at least from where I stand, and I haven't given it much time in all honesty, Mike. It'd be hard to probably please everyone if you're going to move things around. Those breaks, that time, that rest is important for the coaches, I can tell you, to get re-energized heading into training camp because you're going. There's very seldomly a day off for 6+ months. So, good? All right.